All right, I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to join me. It is just now 5 p.m. Central Time here in beautiful East Texas. I am working on getting all of my live chats going, and also there's so much going on right now at Mary's Heirloom Seeds that it's almost impossible to keep everything on track, but I am trying my best. All right, so if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Tonight's discussion is covering your gardens in cooler weather. The number one email I have received this week has been, should I cover it? When do I cover it? It's going to be X temperature. What do I do? So if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Hey, Shirley, thanks for joining me. For those of you just joining me for the first time, welcome. And for those of you that join me regularly, welcome back. So there is a lot that I have to share. Oh, lots of regulars, Jennifer, Caitlin, and Krista. Hey, you made it. So Krista, I think you commented on my Facebook page, not 100% sure. Facebook, hey, Alan, YouTube has been weird lately. I will schedule my live chat and I will schedule it in horizontal mode. But when I go to go live, it will make it go up and down. And it's annoying. It's frustrating. And I don't want to do it anymore. So what I'm going to have to do is go live automatically. There's going to be no more scheduling of YouTube until YouTube gets their you-know-what together and they figure out why it's happening the way it is. Because it's just silly. Everything was working great, and then all of a sudden, boop, they made changes, and it's not. So tonight's topic, I'm going to talk about covering your crops. Now, behind me is my wonderful, glorious peppers that I am still waiting to ripen, and it got cold. And so my conversation today is about covering your crops, when to cover it, how we cover it, why we cover it. But I also have something awesome to share. I kind of teased this in on my Facebook page. I also have a giveaway. I'm going to share the giveaway information in the middle of the video. So you're going to have to watch and see what happens. This is awesome. This is my second giveaway this month. And I usually only do one seed giveaway every month, but I'm feeling kind of excited about October. I'm feeling kind of excited about 2025 gardens. So this is going to be just hang on, hold your horses, and I'll share some information about this. Now, we have had some crazy swings in our temperature here in East Texas. I had to write it down because it was so weird. Just weird. It happens. We had a really early frost last year. I think it was October 30th where we had a hard freeze, and I was super bummed because I lost some of my plants. Now yesterday, actually today, the low was 38. My plants survived. Some of my squash had some damage, but Tuesday we had a high of 91 degrees. Then on Wednesday, it was 51 degrees at 11 o'clock when I was out there in my garden kind of checking everything out. So it's kind of chilly. And today, of course, the low is 38 and a high of like 70. So huge swings in temperature, and usually that makes my sinuses go crazy, but this time around, I'm doing okay, which is kind of cool. I almost grabbed a sweater or a flannel before I came out here because there's a little chill to the air. Now, in general, there is some questions about when to cover your crops. So frost generally causes minor damage when it's super sensitive stuff, flowers, things like that. Nancy says 34 in Georgia. Oh my, yeah. So 37 here was kind of cold. So frost can cause minor damage when it's more sensitive stuff. So again, it really depends on what you're planting. So my tomatoes and my peppers right back here, my strawberries, my eggplant, my onions over there, they're fine, but they were also in a much different area. Hey, Jenny, thanks for joining me. My squash over in the full sun garden, there's some damage at 38 degrees. So it really depends on what you're growing and where you're growing it and how those crops have been raised. A freeze is more damaging than a frost, and that's what everyone needs to understand. A hard freeze is not the same as a frost. So if you have, and also 38 degrees ambient temperature may not be 38 degrees what your plants are feeling. So that's why, even though it was 38 degrees here, my squash plants had some damage because those cells of the plant leaves had some damage because of the cold. They're also out in the middle of the garden instead of being covered with a little more insulation here. So when a freeze occurs, your plant cells freeze, which causes cellular damage, which causes cellular collapse. And that's when you see the tissues of your plants, the leaves, turning brown and withering away and kind of dying away. So the Old Farmer's Almanac is generally what I use for my estimated frost dates. You need to remember that this is not set in stone. My estimated frost dates are the frost dates from the last 10 years, and then they use that as an average. So my average frost date here for Ben Wheeler, Texas, which is East Texas, is November 12th or November 15th, something like that. Hello, it's October 12th. That's almost a month away. And we had a really cold night. Not a freeze, but very cold, and cold enough to cause some damage to my plants. So I still have a month out where I was thinking I wouldn't have to cover my plants because, hey, I still got another month. So I say this every year when I discuss your first frost date and your last frost date, and that is to check your actual temperature. Because even though the average for my area per the Old Farmer's Almanac isn't a month away, you need to check your average. But also next week, it's going to be mid to high 80s. So this is just a very short cold snap, 24, 48 hours, where I didn't necessarily feel the need to cover all my plants. And like I said, I've got peppers, squash, all kinds of stuff right here, and none of this over here was damaged in my partial shade garden. The most of the damage was in my full sun garden, because those are used to like super hot, warm temperatures. Those plants are hardened off for some good hot weather, and they really didn't like the cold weather. So you should, now the big question is, when do I start using frost protection? What do I do? How do I do it? So you should start using frost protection when your overnight temperatures drop into the 30s. Now, Krista says that happened last year in mid-October, one night in the low 30s. Now, last year, Krista, you make a good point. Last year, I was not prepared. It was October, I'm looking at the frost, it's Halloween or almost Halloween, and I'm like, holy cow, I still am supposed to have 15 more days, and I've got peppers and I've got squash on the plant, and I really want to be able to harvest the rest of those so that I don't lose it. By the way, if you're just joining me, hit the thumbs up and subscribe, because I am about to share some information on a giveaway. But first, this. So this year, now I was saying, last year I was completely, it was just out of the ordinary, out of the regular schedule of things. I really like things orderly and on schedule, but you know, nature, you can do whatever you want, but Mother Nature's going to do whatever she wants. So I used fitted sheets, I used regular sheets, I used buckets to keep it off. The key is, when you are using frost protection, you don't want your frost protection to touch your plants, because that frost protection might freeze. And if it touches that plant, it defeats the purpose of having frost protection in the first place. So I bought a frost blanket. So when I am warm and snuggly in my house under my warm fuzzy blanket, my plants will be under this nice warm frost blanket. These are not cheap, but they are durable. You can reuse these every year. You don't have to throw them away and buy new stuff. This one in particular is 10 feet by 30 feet. So you can get these at 10 feet by 50 feet. You can get them in different diameters and things like that. But this specifically is supposed to help you prolong your garden and your harvest potentially by keeping the frost at bay. And here's how it works. Now, a frost blanket will cover that area. You want to keep it low. You don't really want a high tunnel like this. You want a low tunnel. You can actually make a PVC small round over your garden if it's not super tall like these. And then you can cover it that way. And that will keep it low to the ground. The point of the entire purpose of these frost blankets is to keep the temperature down, keep the temperature up when the temperature outside goes down. So you want to put your frost blankets up in the afternoon time when it's nice and warm, and you cover it up, and that will seal in some of the warmth. It's not going to seal in all the warmth. It's not going to keep it 80 degrees if it was 80 degrees at night and 30 degrees in your cold, but it's going to keep some of the warmth inside. You don't want to put your frost blankets up in the morning time. You want to put it in the late afternoon time. And then when the sun rises and it starts to warm up, you want to remove this if your frost is done. For example, like I said, today the low was 38 degrees, but tomorrow is going to be 80 degrees. So I did not put this up, but I did buy this specifically so I could show you, because I do have colder temperatures on the horizon. So if I had installed my frost blanket last night, I would have installed it around 4 p.m. when it was nice and toasty warm outside. And then I would have removed it after it warmed up. Now, here's the tricky part. It didn't warm up until about noon. So I would not have come out here at 7 o'clock in the morning when the sun was rising and when I was up and going to work. I would have waited till about noon when it started to warm up before I removed my frost blanket. So there's some ins and outs that need to be learned and figured out about using a frost blanket. I will have a kind of how-to tutorial on how I'm going to install them in my raised beds. I'm not going to put it on this gigantic, beautiful caged garden here because for me, it just seems like it's a lot more work than I need to. I'm going to harvest all the peppers before it freezes and we'll be good. But I have another 2 weeks that I'm watching the forecast where I don't have super cold weather. So it was just the one night. Now, some people will bring in their plants in containers when it is going to be cold, but I can't bring in an acre's worth of garden in raised beds. So that's just not going to happen. And Krista mentioned it was super windy here, and I'm looking at my pigeon peas over here. I had 2 out of 6 that were on their side because I've got one that's about 7 feet plus tall, and it was so windy here that I had 2 of them blow over. So it just depends. I mean, every year is different in the garden, and you're just gonna have to figure out what works for you. So if plants are not easily moved indoors, a frost blanket is super helpful. Now, you don't have to go out and buy super expensive frost cloth or whatever else. You can use sheets, blankets, things like that. But what I learned last year is, again, if it's super windy, like Krista mentioned, all the preparations that I did last year didn't matter because not only was it cold, but we also had super windy weather and it blew over everything that I was holding it down. And so my sheets that I was using were touching my plants and they ended up dying. That would be my tomatoes, which was kind of sad to have an early end to my tomatoes. Now, before I get started on specific temperatures for your frost blankets, I'm going to share the giveaway information. So if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'm not going to be sharing a live video link from now on unless YouTube decides to get their you-know-what together. I'm going to just go live Thursday, 5 p.m. Central Time, and you're just going to subscribe to my channel so that you can see it. Now, giveaway. I've already done a seed giveaway for October, and I had 5 winners. All 5 winners emailed me immediately, and all 5 winners, their prizes have already been sent. They should be arriving either today, tomorrow, or Friday. Now, I have a new giveaway because there's a couple of awesome things going on right now. My school garden donation program is kicked in high gear because school got back in session, and I've got school gardens around the country reaching out, and they're getting free seeds on a regular basis. So definitely, hey Raven Cat, thanks for joining me. So if you have a school garden, check out marysheirloomseeds.com and sign up for my emails. Garlic does not need to be covered. So I added something, and I sent out an email and I shared the information. Hey, Spartacus, thanks for joining us. I'm also adding storm victims to my donation program. If you were affected, if your gardens were destroyed, if your homes were destroyed, if your property was destroyed, if you had flooding and you lost your seeds, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, my customers in those areas are struggling. I know people personally in that area, people that have lost everything. Their homes were destroyed and they've had to move. I know there's been death and destruction, and it hurts my soul. To be totally honest with you, I feel for these people. And I know that offering seeds isn't gonna fix that. But that's what I can do. So, I have added that to our donation program. When the dust settles, when the water recedes, when you have your homes back, when you move, maybe you're not going to be in where you were before and you have to move and figure something else out. Reach out. If you do not follow me on Facebook, I totally understand. The information for the storm relief donation program was posted to Facebook, but I will be also posting it to my website very soon. It's been very busy lately, and I have not been able to update my website as often as I should, but I will be doing that. So bear with me here while I do all the things. The school garden donation program is posted on my website. So if you go to marysheirloomseeds.com, you go to Mary's blog, the first post you're going to see is the second giveaway for October. The second post you're going to see is the school garden donation program. And then tomorrow, you're going to see a new one about the storm damage donation program. And trust me, I understand these people need food, they need water, they need heat, they need electricity, they need gas for their cars. Those are important things that need to be taken care of way before we start talking about seeds. My friend Jen, she's in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And I've been following her from day one, and I've donated to her cause because I know her personally. And I know that anything that I know that all the donations that I've sent to her, or that people have sent to her, are going to her community. They need animal feed, they need food, they need medications. So that's super important. Those are more important than seed donations, but I can't help everybody, but I can help with what I have at my fingertips, and that's seeds. So if you know somebody, if you personally were affected, please reach out. I don't want this to be a soapbox, but at least at the same time, I want you to know that I'm in your corner and I'm going to try and help you if I can. So, getting back to all the awesomeness, I will share in the description section of this video a link to the giveaway as soon as I'm done with my live chat. I will also share a link to all of the awesomeness at marysheirloomseeds.com. I am super excited about the school garden donation program, if you haven't noticed already, because it is a huge, it's super important to me. It always has been. So if your plants are not easily moved indoors, like I mentioned earlier, the frost blanket is beneficial to you. Now, there's some wiggle room with that. Now, some sources say that at 30 degrees, or I should say mid 30s, you need to cover it. Some say when the temperatures drop below 28. The reason for that is just because the ambient temperature, for example, is 38 degrees doesn't necessarily mean that the plant temperature is that, because your plants can freeze at they feel colder than the ambient temperature, which is weird, right? I don't know if you noticed, but I go outside right now and I'm probably much colder than I normally am in this temperature because we have wind sometimes, and then sometimes there's no wind, and I'm like, oh, I could do this without a sweatshirt. So there's a difference, you know. Sometimes when you get that hard breeze, you're like, oh my gosh, I need a sweatshirt. So those are some things that you need to do. Occasionally, even with coverings, you're still gonna have some damage from frost. Now, if you have prolonged temperatures below freezing, that's when you're going to see the damage, whether you've got frost blankets or not. So Alan says, keep plants watered. Air freezes faster than water. Great tips. So if it's 5 hours or more of prolonged cold temperature, you're probably going to see some damage, whether you have frost blankets or not. So these are some things that you will be learning as you add to. So garlic, I do not cover my garlic. I discussed it, I think, in my garlic planting video. Plant your garlic, heavily mulch your garlic, walk away from your garlic. I never cover my garlic. It's just not something I do, and it's survived the last however many years I've been planting garlic. And even under snow, it survived because I had a heavy mulch. So that's something to consider. Now, I'm not going to use this frost blanket just by itself. I'm going to need some stakes. I'm going to need some PVC. Hey, James, thanks for joining me. I don't want this frost blanket to touch my plants. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I mean, sawhorses. I mean, there's a million other things that you can do. I use buckets. I mentioned earlier, I use 5-gallon buckets. Kitty litter buckets. They're free if you have cats and you use kitty litter. So use what works for you. Stakes. You want to, again, super important, you want to remove your frost covering or your frost blankets once it starts to warm up. This isn't something you're going to cover long term. Now, cold frames or cold tunnels are another option for you. You can also do that in a long row. For those of you that are growing in ground, it's probably a lot easier. My plants need water. I also need water. So if you're growing in longer rows, grow tunnels or floating row covers are going to be super helpful for you. Like I said, this is 30 feet. This is 10 by 30. So you could get a really good long row here, whereas my raised beds, they're not going to be as beneficial in my raised beds as if I was growing in ground and I had longer rows. So they are going to be trapping the radiant heat from your plants and your soil that's going to help hopefully warm them up through the cooler temperatures at night. And again, keep them removed. So I hope you enjoyed my live chat. Super simple, super easy. I wanted to share with you some information about covering your crops, keeping them warm when you have just a cold snap, especially right now. I may have another 30 days of warm weather after a cold snap. But if I had this cover on, I may not have lost some of the squash plants over there. I didn't really lose squash plants. It was more so a couple leaves that look damaged. Before I finish, I want to share with you a couple of our specials. Yesterday, I shared an email about some seed sales. I am completely reorganizing my seed warehouse, which is super fun and exciting and a lot of work. I mentioned these big projects I've got going on. So I found that I have some extra seeds that I wanted to put on sale. So if you didn't already sign up for my email, you missed it, but I'll try and send it out again. We have 3 discount codes, and I mentioned it in my live chat last week. KITS15, K-I-T-S as in Sam, the number 1 and the number 5, will take 15% off all of our starter kits. And I'm going to share all this information in the description section as soon as I'm done with my live chat. Greens 24 used in the discount code box at checkout will save 15% all of our Heirloom Greens collection. Another fun one for the entire month of October is Hog Wild. Because we had some issues with our wild hogs, hence this beautiful cage that I built here for my peppers. Hog Wild at checkout will take 10% off all of our single seed packs. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to share with you one more time. The link is at marysheirloomseeds.com. And this is the giveaway. But I haven't shown you what the best part about it is. This is actually an ammo can, but it's fantastic for seed storage because it's sealed. You want to sign up for my giveaway. This is one winner, US or Canada. It starts today, right this very second, at marysheirloomseeds.com. Go to Mary's blog and you can sign up. And it ends on Sunday at midnight, and I'm going to choose a winner on Monday. There's only going to be one winner. So definitely sign up. Definitely check it out. If you have any questions, send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do answer. So that is it for me. Thank you for joining me. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, and happy planting.